Good morning. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Perfect. Thanks, Josh. How's it going today? Happy Thursday, huh? The week flies when we have a holiday, the first day. You guys aren't going to want to come back after spring break. You're going to be like, see ya, bye-bye. But you have to. You have to come back. I've been trying to talk them into this being an 8-week class, but they don't let me. Because I teach an 8-week class, it's a different class. And so we finish right before spring break, and then I start a new class after spring break. I think if you're going to have a spring break, that's how to do it.
Wait,
Because it's hard to come back after spring break.
we do get a spring break?
You do get a spring break.
Oh, I thought we didn't,
Yep.
and my dad was totally taunting me about it.
Oh, that's hilarious. Nope, you totally get a spring break. It's coming
Oh.
up. It is, hold on, let me look at my calendar. It's later than I wanted it to be. It's March, because it's not when my kids is. It is March 15th through the 19th.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, so now you can taunt him.
Yeah, exactly.
Is your dad a teacher or no?
No, he's a dentist, but my sister's in high school, so.
So your dad doesn't get spring break either, so you can taunt him for that.
Well, he kind of has this entire pandemic, like, this whole thing has like made him want to retire so much faster, because he's had time to work out, and do stuff that he wants. So yeah, he taunts me all the time. So
Well, that's okay. Well, and good to know, right? Maybe
mm-hmm.
he will be to retire early.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He has a good career, right?
Mm-hmm.
So nice. All right. We're waiting for a few more people. I don't know if it's don't come to class Thursday or what it is, but oh, good. Here they are. See, I just have to say that and then everybody arrives. Okay. Or just Vanessa. It's okay. We are doing a super fun thing today. Standard deviation. Yay! It's not that bad. How was your mini lesson? Fine. I know it's a little sketchy, but did you get through it?
I
Okay,
think I
good.
need more explaining, but yeah.
Oh, good. That's what today is for. I'm so happy you said that. So we're going to do it by hand, and we'll do it on the calculator. And I think it's important to do it by hand at least 2 times, just so you make sure you understand what it's really doing mathematically. And then once you do it a couple times, you'll be like, okay, now enough of this. Now I can just do it on my calculator. Totally fine. Totally work. Not a big deal. Okay, so let me share something with you. If I find it. Okay. We talked the other day just a tiny bit about scholarships. And I want to make sure that you know, and this link will be on our slides so you can access it. We have lots of scholarships at MCC, or there's external scholarships available too. Can you see a screen that says scholarships? Okay, good. So there are Maricopa District scholarships. That's what this MCCCD scholarship is. There's also a foundation scholarship that is, a different scholarship. We also have scholarships on textbooks, tribal scholarships, legacy scholars, and then we have links to, there's college-specific scholarships as well as external scholarships. Now, if you've applied for a scholarship already and you haven't heard back yet, or you heard that you were given the scholarship but it hasn't been funded yet, sometimes there's a delay. I have several students that now are just getting their scholarship and it's reimbursing them from last semester as well. So it's nice to have those scholarships. Now, they don't just hand out money, right? You have to do some work to get these scholarships, but it's well worth it, whether you're writing essays, doing service, or any of those things. I have several students that are transferring to ASU in the fall, and I have 2 students that worked their tails off on their scholarship applications, and they both are fully funded for ASU. They don't have to pay anything. Yeah, that's huge. I don't know if you've looked at tuition, but it ain't cheap, right? So, and you have to be proactive and look at these well in advance of when you're transferring. So for example, my students got the scholarships in January and they're not transferring until August. Okay, so that's a long time in advance. They had accepted to the university before they could apply to the scholarship as well. So don't put off your transfer information. If you know when you're transferring and where you're transferring, contact that university right away, whether it's ASU, NAU, GCU, whatever it may be, and get your paperwork rolling to be admitted. You can usually do that at least a semester in advance. Okay, so my students who were going to school in August at ASU or NAU applied in this fall, so like a year before they were actually going to transfer. The nice thing about that is we have lumberjack scholarships if you're going to NAU. We have, there's all kinds of scholarships. They're both educators, my Ed Rising students. So they're both going to be teachers. So that was the scholarship that they received. But I had lots and lots of students apply for scholarships and get them. A lot of mine got the service scholarship right now, you know, so they're on that scholarship. So make sure you're proactive and you look for these scholarships. Like I said, it's work, but it will pay off dividends for sure. So that's the scholarship info. The other thing is, maybe you just started at MCC. You're like, dude, I can't even think about transferring yet. I just need to start getting my classes done and things like that. One of the ways that you can be active is you can join a club at MCC. And they're doing Club Rush. And so they have this Google form you can fill out. If you go to the Student Life website, which we visited before, you can get more information on clubs and when they, like I am co-sponsor for the Educator Rising Club, and we have a meeting this afternoon. So, and you can look up when meetings are and things like that. But here's a little blurb about some of the clubs that are on campus right here. And if you're interested, you just click on them and then you'll get more information. I mean, if you take a look at them, there's a Communication Honor Society, there's an Entrepreneur Club, a Psychology Honor Society. Phi Theta Kappa is an international honor society that you can transfer scholarships for as well. Philosophy Club, MECHA, we have a math club that's been meeting, the Intertribal Student Organization, Geo Club, International Student Organization, the Enthusiastic Sobriety Club, Friendly Earth. There's my club right there, Educator Rising, the Computer Science Club, that's got a great sponsor as well too, the Black Student Union, ASMCC, we have UDIT here, that's on that. We have Aliento, the Asian Pacific Islanders Coalition, we have the American Indian Science and Engineering Society, and the Adair Association. Now, if none of these clubs sound interesting to you and you want a different club, then you put that down here. MCC is all about starting new clubs. A lot of these clubs are pretty new. And even though we are in a pandemic, we can still meet virtually. Sometimes it's almost easier with your busy schedule. So take a look at the clubs. So whether you're transferring soon or at all, or you just want to become a bigger part of MCC, this is really important stuff. We have so many opportunities for our students. And ASU has what's called a MAP program. Is anyone planning on going to ASU? Anyone in here going to ASU? All right. So ASU has what's called a MAP program. And what that means is if you get on a MAP program, they lock your tuition in at what it is right now, as long as you transfer within your MAP. Okay, so let's say your MAP says in 2 years you're going to transfer. As long as you transfer by, what would that be, fall of 2023, then your tuition will be locked at the rate it is right now, instead of if they have a tuition increase. Yeah, you would not be affected by that. Nice, tricky, right? It's important things to know, because they want to know, if you already know you're going to ASU, why not get on a MAP, right? And lock your tuition. Yeah, it's important. So NAU has a similar program. It's a little different. It's not called a MAP, but they do have scholarships as well. We have reps from U of A, GCU, ASU, and NAU, all affiliated with MCC's campus that you can make appointments with. So do that as soon as you can, so you're ready for those changes. You can't do it the semester before. You'll be too busy, and then you'll miss that semester, and you'll end up having to take a whole semester off. Yeah, it's annoying. I know some of you are like, I just got here. Are you kidding me right now? It's okay if this is a little much for you. Just think about joining a club. All right, so any questions for me about that? So use those resources. We have a lot. All right. So let's do a little bit of up, maybe, if I can share my screen correctly. I've had several students. I had several students last semester that said, I didn't think I could apply for a scholarship. I didn't think, that was for me. And then they got their scholarship. They just sent me an email that was like, I got a scholarship. And I was like, that's awesome. I don't care how much it is. If it's $500, it's 500 more bucks than you had, right? Heck, if it's $5, it's $5 more than you had. But that's just what I'm saying. I'm saying all these scholarships add up. Okay. We just already talked about that. Today, we're going to talk about measures of variation, which are also called measures of spread. Okay. And measures of spread are how the data is distributed. Remember how we talked about our stocks? Shape, outliers, center, and then the last one is spread. So we talked yesterday about which is better, the mean, the median, or the mode. And what we didn't talk about yet, but we kind of hinted on it, is how spread out your data is makes a big difference. Remember that problem you did on that assignment that's due by tonight as your team? The one that was a small town where there were 50 people living in the small town, and one person made $5 million and the other 49 people made $30,000. And you calculated your mean, and you got your mean to be, I think it was $129,400. And we were talking, is that a good measure, or is the median better? Well, if you reported, like say you read it in the magazine, you're like, oh, in this tiny town and whatever, the average salary is $129,400. You'd be like, I'm moving, right? I'm moving to this tiny town. And then you get there and you're like, oh my gosh, everybody makes $30,000 except for that king over there who makes $5 million, right? So that was a lie. It was because the data was too spread. We had that outlier there. If we changed the data and said, oh, we're just going to report the median, right? It was $30,000. We were like, oh, I'm not moving there, right? I'm not moving for $30,000. So keep that in mind when we're talking about spread of data. The easiest measure of spread is the range. And the range, how you find it is you take the maximum value minus the minimum value. Okay, that's it. It's not a great measure of spread, but it will tell you at least how far your data is apart. For example, if I gave a test, a math test, and it was out of 100 points, and I said the average on my test was 75, you'd be like, okay, sounds like the class did okay, right? Everybody got about a C. But then if I told you my range was 100 points, you'd be like, some people didn't do real well. Somebody got a 0 and somebody got 100. So even though my mean was 75, that might not have been a telling statistic, right? So measures of spread are important. You're going to do a quick warm up. You're going to find the mode, the median, the mean, and the range of this data that I gave you. Now remember, I just told you what the range was. The range was the max. Your data is, you recorded the time in seconds it took for 8 participants to solve a puzzle. The times were 15.2, 18.8, 19.3, 19.7, 20.2, 21.8, 22.1, and 29.4. And you want to find the mean, the median, the mode, and the range of those. I don't know what the puzzle is. Maybe a Rubik's Cube. Maybe they're amazing Rubik's Cube solvers. Yeah, that would be really fast. Okay, so do those. When you're done with those, you can get them ready in the chat. If you want to type them privately to me, that's fine. If you want to type them to the whole class, that's fine. Just don't hit enter yet. Okay? All right, I'll give you about 3 minutes to do that. You can use the calculator. Does anyone need a link to the stat calculator? Or Desmos? You're all good? Okay, good.
But you want us to do the mode, the mean, or just one of them?
Oh, can you see my screen?
Yeah. You
I
want
wanted to do all 4 of those.
Okay. All right. Just make sure. Sorry.
Mode, median, mean, range. You're good. I just wanted to make sure I was really screen sharing, that I didn't dream that. All right, how are you doing? Did you finish yet? Or you need a second? Okay, I think you're finished.
I've gotten
Yes?
to the mean. I finished the mean. That's
I need like a few, like another minute.
Okay, perfect.
Is there any rounding, like decimal places that you wanted us to go to specific?
No, it's fine. Just give me
Okay.
whatever you got and then we'll talk about rounding.
Okay.
I should put it on there. All right, so get ready to chat them. If you're not ready yet, just send me what you have or send it to me when you're done. If you want to privately do it, you can. If you want to send it to everybody, that's fine too. So 3, 2, 1, go. All right, so take a look at these. So first of all, was no mode. Be careful that you don't say the mode is 0 because the mode is not 0. 0 is a number. So don't say the mode is 0 because that would mean the most frequently occurring data point is 0. So that would say that most people who solved this puzzle solved it in 0 seconds. That's not true. Matt said there is no mode or none, right? So either no mode or none, but don't put 0. Okay, good. And the reason there's no mode is because every single data point only occurs once, right? So there is, and that happens. We can have node, we can have one mode, or we can have 2 modes, right? Don't forget about those. Okay, the second one, the median. Remember, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 data points. So that means we're not going to have an exact data point in the middle. We're going to 2 that are in the middle, and the 2 that are in the middle are 19.7 and 20.2. So we have to find the middle of those. So we have to take 19.7 plus 20.2 and divide by 2, and we get 19.95. Notice that I have units on there. Yeah, this is still seconds. We're still measuring the average time in seconds. Okay, so don't forget units. The mean, we add them all up, divide by 8 because there's 8 data points, and we should get 20.8125 seconds. If you rounded to like the hundredth decimal place, so you wrote 20.81, that's fine. Hopefully I'll be clear enough to put directions on where to round to, okay? And then the range, you take the highest number, which was 29.4, and subtract the lowest number, which was 15.2, and you get the range is 14.2 seconds. Yeah. So it sounds like 29.4 is fast, but not compared to the 15.2 person, right? Took them like twice as long. Yeah. So any questions on those? How I got my data, you know, answers. If you made a mistake, now you found it, right? First of all, you're not going to write the mode 0, right? Second of all, wherever you made your mistake, you found it. Good, good. And now you know that you better put units on there. Somebody did. I think it was V. I think it was V who put units on hers. Yeah, it was B. Great job. Okay. So that was like recap what we already did with just one bonus of range. Now let's talk standard deviation. What on earth is a standard deviation? If you Google it, the answer will not help you. Yeah, start crying. It's a sad thing because whoever wrote those definitions is insane when they say, ooh, the standard deviation is the mean of the means. Have you heard of that? And you're like, what? That cleared it up, not at all. Thank you for playing, but no. So let's talk what it is. And then we're going to decompose the formula so we understand how it's measuring it. So the standard deviation is measuring how far, so the distance, each data point is from the mean. That's it. So it measures how far it is from the mean and then averages them. Yeah, that's true. That's what it does. Okay. So it's trying to show you an average distance from the mean. Yeah, Tashina, I've seen those videos. Like some of them are bad and you're like, okay, I might as well not have watched this because this was not helpful. So I hope after today, you'll be much better because we're going to do a very personal example. So here's some characteristics of the mean. Of the standard deviation. It's always positive, okay, because it's measuring distance and distance is always measured positively, okay? It's going to be 0 if all the data points are the same. So remember that small town scenario again, right? If I eliminated the $5 million person, I said he moved away and there's only 49 people living in the town now and they all make $30,000. The standard deviation would have to be 0 because none of them have any distance from the mean, right? So, and the standard deviation has the same units as the original data. So if we were finding the standard deviation for our puzzle problem, it would be in seconds, okay? Because it's measuring how far that is from the mean. Now, be careful because the standard deviation can be really influenced by outliers. So if we put that $1 million person back in there, our standard deviation is going to get much, much bigger. So, ready for this? The smaller the standard deviation, the closer the data is clustered around the mean. The larger the standard deviation, the further the data is from the mean. Okay, so again, I'll just use a quick example before we get into a calculation. If I give a test and I tell you that the mean was 75, the next question you should ask me is, what was your standard deviation? Because if I say the mean was 75 and the standard deviation was 29, that means my students averaged from F to A's. That's a pretty big spread, right? 75, and then I say it's 29, so I could go up 29 points or down 29 points. That's pretty big. But if I say the same test I gave to a different class, and my average was still a 75, my mean was still a 75, but now my standard deviation was only 8 points. Well, that would say everybody scored about the same, right? My data would be much, much closer together. If you think about shape, our shape, if our standard deviation is close together, my bell would look like this. If my standard deviation is very spread, very big, my bell curve would look like this. Much more spread out. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, so the smaller the standard deviation, the closer the data is clustered around the mean. The larger the standard deviation, the further spread out it is. Yeah, why do we care? Well, we care because we're trying to describe distribution. Okay, we can calculate it by hand, which we're going to, and we can calculate it on the calculator, which we're going to. Okay, let's look at this nasty formula. Yeah, yikes. Everybody's face was like, what is happening? It's okay, we're gonna break this down and then we're gonna do it piece by piece. So the first thing we wanna do is find, it calls it the deviation from the mean, but really all we're doing is finding the distance there. So we're just gonna subtract the mean from every data point. So that's this part of this formula. So we're gonna find the mean And we're going to subtract it from every data point just to find those distances, right? Okay, now some of them are going to be negative, right? Because they're below the mean instead of above the mean. So on step 2, we're going to change this. We're going to square them, which is this part of the formula. All that's doing is making them positive, right? Because -3 squared makes it +9. So we're trying to make them positive because we want to describe it positively. Then the next step we're going to do is we're going to add them all up. We're going to add them all up. So that's this part. That little symbol right there means sum them. Add them all up. Okay. After we do that, this is the only part that I think becomes troubling for some people. We're going to divide. Sometimes we'll divide by n, and sometimes we'll divide by -1. Note in my formula, I have n -1. Remember, way back in the first day of statistics, we talked about the difference between a population and a sample. So if we have a population, we're going to divide it by n because we have them all. If we only have a sample, what statisticians figured out was it doesn't describe it as accurately unless we divide it by 1 less than the population. So we divide it by n -1. So in other words, statistics is all made up. We know that, right? Everybody agrees it's made up math. Yeah, I'm allowed to say that. It's my degree, right? My degree was in statistics. So statistics was all made up. What mathematicians did was they said, we'd like to describe data so we could make plans, we could model things. So they did all these models and they said, oh, we've noticed that this isn't a good descriptor unless we change our formula when we have a sample. So that's what they did. So that's the only difference there. Okay, dividing by n versus dividing by n -1. Almost always, you'll divide by n -1 because you'll have a sample. Okay, all right. The last step of this, the very last step, is the square root. And the reason we take the square root is because we're undoing the square that we did in step 2. Okay, we have to bring it back down. Okay, so those were all the steps. Now you're like, do I have to memorize this formula? Number 1, no, you don't. I give you a formula sheet that has this formula on it, right? Number 2, do I ever have to use this formula? Well, today you do, but after today, you can use your calculator. Okay, so, but the reason we're spending time on it is so we understand what it's doing. Okay, that's why we're spending time on it. So it does look like a bear, but it is definitely doing. So you ready? I like dogs. We're going to do a dog example. So you and your friends have just measured the height of your dog in millimeters. Here's their dates. I mean, their dates. Here's their height. It's 600 millimeters, 470 millimeters, 170 millimeters, 430 millimeters, and 300 millimeters. Now, make it fun for you. Pick which dog's your dog. I want the giant dog, right? That's my dog. So you can't have the giant one. I'm just kidding. You could have a giant dog too. It's your thing. So pick which dog you like. That's your dog. And basically, we're trying to describe the heights of our dogs. So what I want you to do right now, get a table like this ready on paper. You can do it on a whiteboard. You can do it on whatever you want. You're not turning it in, you know, so just get it ready. So you want your data value on the far left. The middle is where we're going to do those subtractions. And on the far right is where we're going to square them. So get that ready. And then we'll put in our dog data, okay, to that first column. Nice thing is we only have 5 data points, right? So not a lot. It'll be okay. So the first column is data value. The second column is where we're going to calculate these deviations, which are really just differences. And then the third column is where we're going to square them. So I'll put the dog data in there for you. Remember our dog data? So there you go. There's the table with the first column filled in. All right, everybody ready? What's the next thing we need in order to fill in that middle column? We have the data value. What are we missing? The mean. Yep. The mean. So we have to find the mean. So can you find the mean of that? Find the mean of that sample. I'll put it back here so you can see it. Find the mean. Once you find the mean, get in the chat for me, but don't hit enter. You can use your calculator, right, to do it, but find your mean. So add all those up, divide by 5, because there's 5 data points. Okay, everybody got their mean? 3, 2, 1, go. Uh-oh, Tashina, what happened there? Ignore that, right? Ignore that. All right, so it looks like 394. Tashina, did you find your mistake? Okay.
Yeah, it
so
was
that's-
actually funny. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. So that's how we found it, right? We added them all up and divided it. So now what you want to do is you want to take each data value and subtract the mean from it. So for example, we would take 600 minus that 394. We would get an answer, right? And then we would share that answer. So we would get 206, and then we would take 206 and square it, which if you need that button on your calculator, make sure you can find it. So do that with all of them. Now you'll notice that some of them turn out to be negative, right? Like right here, when we do 170 minus 394, we get negative 224. But that's okay. When you square negative 224, you get a positive value. Okay. So find all those, and then we'll compare them and make sure everybody has the same amount. Okay, are we ready? Is that what you got for all your squares? Look good? Any questions, concerns, discrepancies? What do you have? Okay. Now,
No,
if you're thinking, oh, go ahead.
For some reason, on the last one, not really sure why, but I got a negative 8,836, even though I input it as negative 94 squared.
you probably didn't have parentheses around the negative 94.
Okay.
So, and that'll make it negative, but it's okay. Just
That's right.
know that that column should always be positive. It'll be
Gotcha.
the exact same value. It'll just have a different sign. So just make sure you leave that sign off.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Good question. Okay, so if you're thinking about the formula, where were we in that formula? We're really only in the top. So we're in the numerator and we're inside those parentheses. We just finished the square. So our next step is going to add up all of these right here. We're going to add up all these squares. And then we have to divide. And we have to decide if we're going to divide by n or if we're going to divide by n minus 1. Well, the question is, are these all the dogs we care about? Or were we just taking a sample of the dogs that were convenient to us, right? So I usually divide by n minus 1 in this example, so you can see that, but I'll show you the difference between them. So add up all these numbers and then divide by n minus 1. So did you get 108,520 for your sum? Okay. And now we're going to divide it by, I used n minus 1. So I divided it by 4. And I got 27,130. Now, that's not the standard deviation yet, right? We're still inside the formula. We haven't quite finished yet. Is everybody okay? Everybody with me?
So wait, so I added all of them up, and then what are the next steps?
Then we divide by n minus 1, which there's 5 data points in our set. So 5 minus 1 is going to be 4. So we're going to divide 108,520 by 4. And that's going to give us this 27,130.
Okay, I see it.
Good. Okay. Now, just so you know, if we would have divided by 5, divided by n, that number is called the variance. We don't really talk about the variance very often. So, but just so you know, in case you see it in there, if we divided it by 5, instead of 21,730, we would get 21,704. But we're getting the 21,730. So the last step to find the standard deviation, the very last step is to take the square root. So take the square root of 27,130. And if you need help with how to do that on your calculator, let me know. Everybody have an answer? Okay, now I'm going to reveal the answer in just a second because this is our standard deviation. If you got the same answer as me, somehow show me that you did, right? Party hats, clapping hands, you can just do this, right? You can shake your head, yes, whatever, but somehow I need to know. Yeah, you ready? Is that what you got? 164.711. If you didn't, let's make sure we review how you take the square root of it, because it might be on your calculator. Did everybody figure it out? Yeah? Question? Anyone? This is really important. Great job, Lily. I think Sheena got it. Josh, you got it. Matt, you got it. Nice. Brady, you got it. Oh, look at V. Thanks, V. Good job. Rookie, you good? Nice. You did? You fine? Danessa, you're good? Yay! Excellent. Okay, now we finally figured it out. That was a lot of work, and there were only 5 data points. But what on earth does this mean? Right? You're like, okay, I got a number, don't know what it is, got it right, but don't really understand it. What does this mean? So we can show what heights are within 1 standard deviation, and that would be above the mean or below the mean, because we're going to learn something later in S5 and S6 about most of our data lies within 1 standard deviation. So that's a good range for us to look at. So if we take the mean, remember, was 394, and I just rounded the standard deviation to the nearest whole number for ease of calculation. And I added it and I got 559 millimeters, and then I subtracted it and got 229 millimeters. What that's saying is most of the dogs lie within that 1 standard deviation above or below the mean. So if they're above that number of 559, they're a big dog, right? And if they're below that 229, they're a pretty dog. They're not an average sized dog. You're like, I knew that at the very beginning of this whole activity. This seems very dumb. Remember, we picked a baby example, but if you can imagine, we're looking at lots and lots of data, right? So if it's beyond 1 standard deviation above or below, it would be considered out of the ordinary, okay? Okay. When do we use standard deviation? All the time. One of the biggest things in our K-12 education system, students receive services depending on where they fall in this range. So students that might have a learning disability, right? They have to be outside of 3 standard deviations in order to receive services. Okay, so that's an example of when it's used. It's also when we do any testing for like the FDA, when we talk about are these within the normal range, that's what we're talking about. We're using standard deviation. Okay, so it's highly, highly used. Your insurance rates are determined with standard deviation, right? That's why 16-year-old boys are so costly to insure, right? And to drive, because they're more prone to an accident, which leads us into probability, which is our next unit. Yeah. Anyone know the job an actuary? Anyone ever heard of that job before? An actuary? Actuaries make a ton of money, just FYI. And actuaries, what they do, this is their job, is they look at statistics and probability, and they're the ones who do all the rates for your insurance, life insurance, health insurance, auto insurance, all of that. They do all those probabilities. They do it for, how you buy flood insurance or earthquake insurance, anything like that. Yeah, so that's what actuaries do. And there's a huge series of like 11 exams to become an actuary. And the first exam covers all 3 semesters of calculus and differential equations and numerical analysis on 1 test. And that's test 1. And there's 11. Yeah. I had a dream that I wanted to be an actuary. It was a lie. I took the first test and left. Was not happy after that. Yeah. I have friends who are actuaries and loved that job. But so just anyway, if you ever thought you wanted this job, look into it. It's a great job. I'm trying to talk my son into being an actuary because he's a math major right now. Yeah, we'll see if it happens. Okay, now we know how to find the standard deviation, and hopefully we know a tiny bit about it. So I'm going to give you a job. You guys are going to work on this activity that's the price of a bag of chips at 5 stores were $7, $6, $8, $5, and $9. I don't know what kind of chips, and I don't know what kind of store you're going to if you're buying $9 chips. But anyway, I'm just saying, this is the data you have. you are going to, I'll give you the doc so you have it. You don't have to write on the doc. If you just want to write on your paper like Judith was doing and just hold it up, if you just want to write on scratch paper, totally fine. But the doc will show you how to walk through it, right? So in case you forget any of the steps. I'm going to put you in your breakout room. You're going to complete this. When I come in your room, be prepared to show me, right? You can share the doc. I don't care. You can show it on paper. You can hold it up like you did. That's fine. But I want you to come up with a standard deviation, right? So you're going to do all the work, come up with a standard deviation. Yes? Okay. When we're done, we'll do it on the calculator because it'll be real fast. Okay, let me put you in your breakout room. That's going to take longer than any of your work. So if you want to start working, that's fine. Hopefully you pulled up the doc. So who do we have? Zevi, Lily. Oh, Lee's not here today. Tashina, Vanessa, and V. Green is Matt, Josh, and Judith. Which must mean red is Brady and Ruki because Annie and Zach are missing. Okay, go for it. I'll come check on you. Hi guys, sorry you had to wait. You were my first room, so you had to wait extra time. We're keeping busy or chatting. About math, of course. Okay, we're almost back. Good job. We're almost all back. We're going to talk about what it means, and then I'm going to let you do your exit ticket. And you're going to be all good for Monday. It's awesome. I'm so excited. Good job. We're still waiting for a couple people. We have 10 more seconds. All right. Welcome back. Good work in your rooms. Good job calling me in to check your work, or if you have a question, anything like that. So very nice. I loved how Brady was sharing his screen and I could see that work. I think V was doing it in her room as well. So good job. It's just helpful for you to see. I know Judith was holding her paper up to the camera. As long as your team can see it, I think you're good. So if we think about what this means, if we take that standard deviation of $1.58, which all got, good job, just make sure you put a dollar sign on there, right? And you make sure you round to the right place value. Then if I take the mean of 7, which you all got, and add $1.58 to it, I get $8.58. If I subtract $1.58 from it, I get $5.42. So chips costing more than $8.58 are kind of like the priciest kettle chips at Trader Joe's or Whole Foods, wherever you're shopping, right? And the chips that are cheaper than $5.42 are cheaper chips like Walmart or wherever else you're going, right? I'm buying the $5 chips, just in case you're wondering. So there you go. I hope that helps you understand. I want to show you one more. If we go into our calculator, do you remember this calculator that I showed you yesterday? This is that app. If we put in that data into this calculator, I'm going to show you where it is, the info. So our data was what, 7, 6, tell me if I get them wrong, 5, and 9, right? Okay. And then I hit solve. Look right here. Do you see your $1.58? Do you see where it is? Yeah, it's the one that says S of X. And the reason it's the one that says S is because that's the sample. If we wanted the population one, we would look at the one underneath. That would be 1.41. Okay. But so now, did you see how fast this was compared to our table? Yeah, you could use this, or you could use the list on your calculator or on your app, right? To do it, you just run one variable stat. Now, in case you're working ahead, the stuff down at the bottom, the min X, Q1, the median, Q3, and the max X, that's the second part of the S4. That's the 5-number summary. So if you're seeing that in your homework, that's that next part of S4 that we're going to do. Okay. But you can literally use this calculator. We only had 5 data points, so it was easy, right? Fast, not a problem. Any questions on this? Now you're like, we're never again by hand, right?
No, can you share that in the chat again? Because I don't know what happened.
For sure.
That
Yeah, for sure. And that's a great app. Bookmark that app. It's a really good one. We wrote it at Maricopa for you guys. So, because I said, I'm not making my students buy a $100 calculator for this class. If they have a $100 calculator, fine. But I'm not going to make them buy it when it might be their last math class, right? So that's that app right there. Now, homework. Don't forget to turn in that assignment from yesterday, right? If you didn't yet. And finish your S3 more practice. But now you have a mini lesson on the second half of S4 that's due by Sunday. This part's not due yet, the S4 practice on more, but do you see how I said do problems 1 through 17 tonight? Those are all the standard deviation problems. So then you can get them out of the way and you don't have to do the rest of them, right? It'll save you time next week. And then don't forget your tutoring assignment, okay? Okay, and I'll put the exit ticket in the chat. You can use a calculator for it. It is finding some standard deviation. Here's the exit ticket. If you have any questions for me, let me know. Otherwise, as soon as you finish your exit ticket, have a great weekend. Great work today.
Thank you.
Bye, V.
Thank you.
On the calculator, to the mean is which one again?
The very first one, the one that says X with a line over the top of it. We call it X bar.
Okay.
Are you talking on your TI? Yeah. Yep, it should be the very first one.
Bye. Thank you, ma'am.
Bye, Tashina. Have a good weekend.
Yes, ma'am.
Have a good weekend, guys. See you later.
Yep, see you later, Josh.
Great, thank you. Have a good day.
All right, bye, Danessa.
Thank you.
We said that. Bye. Sorry, you did. I was looking down.
Bye.
Bye, Matt. How'd you do on that?
Let me see. Uh,